Hello students, myself Karishma Datta from Saraswat International Academy. I am going to teach to standard 8th English medium, subject social science, chapter number 1, arrival of European in India, part 2. Students, we have done in the previous part, that is the introduction was done of the arrival of British rule in India, and then it was what was being seen, that how was the European countries attracted to India, because India was very much famous for its product. So, and even the land route was being used first by the European countries to come to India and do trade, but the land route was being closed out. So now the European country, by seeing the needs, more demand in their country, so they decided to find a sea route to India. And the first person who came forward to find the sea route was Christopher Columbus, but he was not able to find the sea route, and he was having a misconception that he had found India, but he had found a new country, that is America. The person who found the sea route to India was Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese sailor. Okay, and then we have seen the topic, that is end of Portuguese rule, and one theory was also being given to you, that is 2 marks short answer, that is write a short note on Christopher Columbus and write a short note on Vasco da Gama. That two theory was being given to you. Now we shall start with the second part of the chapter, that is arrival of British rule in India, that is the Dutch. After Portuguese who came to India, that was Dutch people. So the topic, that is Dutch. After 100 years of arrival of the Portuguese at the end of the 16th century, the Dutch of Holland, now known as what, that is Netherlands, came to India for trading. What they are saying, that after 100 years of the arrival of Portuguese, and at the end of the 16th century, the Dutch of Holland, now the Holland is said to be as what, that is Netherlands, came to India for what, that is trade. Next, initially they established fort at Pulicat and Madras. Now these two places are where, in Chennai. Okay, so these people, when they came to India, they established their fort, that is trade fort, right, at Pulicat and Madras. Now it is said to be as what, that is Chennai. Next, they also established trading center at Agra in the year 1663. Meanwhile, the British also arrived in India. Okay, now what they're saying, that meanwhile, not only in Pulicat and Madras, but meanwhile also they established their trading center where, at Agra in the year 1663. And meanwhile, when they established their trade center in Agra, okay, who came to India? That is British came to India. Next, the Dutch could not withstand the competition against the British. That means the Dutch was not able to do a competition with whom? That is with the British, against the British. That means British became more powerful compared to Dutch. So Dutch was not able to do competition against the British. Now the next topic, that is British interest in India. How the British interest was seen in India, that we will see. The first point now over here. During the reign of Queen Elizabeth of England in the year 1600 CE, the British established the East India Company. During the reign means at the time in 1600 CE, when Queen Elizabeth was ruling. Okay, where that is in England, the British established what, that is the East India Company. Okay, when in the reign of Queen Elizabeth of England in the year 1600 CE, the British established the East India Company. Okay, next, the company belonged to merchants who wanted to increase their wealth by undertaking trade with India. The company was having what? Belonged to what? That is merchants, and who wanted to increase, and the merchants were thinking of what, to increase their wealth means money, to increase their income by undertaking trade, where that is in India, because the company was also knowing that they can earn more wealth from where, that is from India, because Indian raw material was very much famous all over the world. Next, the first British ship arrived in India at the port of Surat in the year 1608 CE. Okay, so the first ship arrived in India at which port? That is towards Surat, that is towards the South Gujarat, Surat, in the year 1608 CE. Students, again I need to say you that all the years which are being given over here, that data, you need to remember it. It can be asked for objectives, okay, in the exams. Next, Captain W. Hawkins. Captain W. Hawkins means, W means over here William. Okay, Captain William Hawkins, the captain of the ship, was the first British to set foot in India. That means the ship was being leaded by the Captain William Hawkins, and he was the first British to come to set foot means to come to India. Next, he met Jahangir but did not get his permission to trade. Okay, as Vasco da Gama met Zamorin, and Zamorin gave permission to him to do trade. But when Captain William Hawking met Jahangir, but Jahangir did not give permission to trade in India. That means Jahangir was ruling at that time when Captain William Hawking came to India. Next, thereafter, Sir Thomas Roy arrived India, who acquired the permission to establish a trading center in Surat. Okay, after that, what they're saying over here, that Sir Thomas Roy, he arrived India after Captain William Hawking. Okay, and he acquired, that means he took the permission to establish trading center in Surat. Next. Later, Delhi went into the hands of Shah Jahan. Okay, later after Jahangir, the throne of Delhi was now been ruled by Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan gave permission to the British to carry out trade in Bengal. Okay, after Jahangir, Shah Jahan took over the uh, throne of king in Delhi, and Shah Jahan gave permission to the British to now even carry out trade in Bengal. That means one trade was carried out in Surat, and the second trade was carried out by taking permission of Shah Jahan, where that is in Bengal. Okay, now we have seen the Dutch, British interest in India, and the third part is now the French. Now, who came to India? That is the French. Next. The French established the French East India Company in the year 1664 CE. Okay, now the French established what? That is their French East India Company. As British East India Company was being seen, so they also established French East India Company in the year 1664 CE. Next. They established factories in Surat, Machilipatnam and Puducherry, that is now said to be as Pondicherry. Okay, they established what? Their factories in Surat, Machilipatnam and where? That is in Puducherry, now said to be as what? Pondicherry. Who established the factories? That is the French East India Company. Next, the head of the French company was Joseph Francisco Dupleix. Okay, he was the head of the French East India Company, who had a desire to expand the European rule in India. Who had what? A desire to expand European rule, where that is in India. Who was having that type of concept? The head of the company, that is of the French. Next, Thus, the French and the British stood in competition against each other to become the strongest European company. Okay, now the competition was being seen because British was also putting their interest to rule India. Okay, and the same thing was being seen by the French people. They also put interest to expand their rule where that is in India. So competition started between the French and the British people. Okay, and a strong, and they wanted to have a strong company in India. Next, there was innumerable disputes and battle, and finally the British merged as the winner. Okay, there were innumerable disputes. There had more and more disputes were being seen between the British and that is the French, and many battles, and finally the British merged as the winner. That means many battles were held between the French and the British people because competition was being seen. And when the battles were being held, who won in that? That is the Britishers, and Britishers merged to be the strongest power, and they were said to be as the winner. Next, however, the French retained their control over the trading center of Puducherry, Mahe, and Chandranagar. Okay, now what they're saying over here that the French were only able to, they were retained their control only, right? A makeover, right? They were only able to retain their control in the trading centers of Puducherry, Mahe, and Chandranagar. Only these three regions were now in the control of whom? That is of the French people, French country. Okay, now we'll see British trade in Bengal. The first. The British first started their trade on the bank of river Hooghly and established fort in the year 1651 CE. Okay, the British started their trade on the banks of river Hooghly. Okay, the British first started their trade on the bank of river, which river? That is Hooghly, that is in Bengal, and established their fort in which year? 1651 CE. Okay, next. The fort were garrisoned. Garrison means with a heavy force. Okay, garrisoned for their protection of the factory and got the permission from the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to trade without paying taxes against an annual payment. Okay, now what was being seen over here? The fort which were being established by the Britishers, they were having a huge army to protect the factory. Okay, and they got the permission from the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to trade without paying what? That is tax against annual payment, right? Annual payment we need to pay tax, but for the British it was without payment. That means they were not set to pay what? That is tax, and that permission was being given by whom? That is by Aurangzeb. Next. By this time, the East India Company was in a race to earn more and more income. Right? By this time, obviously, they were not able to pay any tax. Annual payment was been income what they was getting. They need to pay a tax, but Aurangzeb gave them permission that they, without paying the tax, they can earn the annual payment. Right? But now, because of that reason, the Britishers were in the race of earning more and more what? That is money. Next. As per the order passed in Bengal, only the company availed the benefit of tax-free trading. Okay, that means only the company was being given tax-free trading. Other than others need to pay what? That is tax. Right? As per the order which was been passed in the Bengal, only the company availed the benefit of tax-free trading. Only the order which was passed in Bengal, what was been said over there? That only the company can trade without, that is, tax. They were tax-free. Okay. Next. However, many officers who were engaged in private trade did not pay the tax as well. However, the officers who were engaged in the private trade, right? They were also not paying what? That is tax. Okay, then. As a result, the income generated from the tax collection in Bengal reduced, which in turn was opposed by the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Uli Khan. Okay, now what they're saying over here, right? The company was said to have tax-free trading. Okay, but even the officers who were in the private trade, right? They need to pay the tax, but they were not paying the tax. And by seeing that, what result was being seen? Obviously, tax is an income for the government. Okay, tax is an income for the government, and the income what the government generates from tax they use for the development of the country, okay, or for the state. But over here, right, even the British were said tax free, no doubt in that, but not the officers who are doing the private trade, they need to pay the tax, but they were also not paying the tax. By seeing that the collection in Bengal, that is the collection in Bengal reduced, which in turn, that is collection of tax, that is the income of government reduced. Okay, and in turn, the Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Ali Khan, what he did, he opposed it for that, right? Obviously, no, everyone is going to oppose, because when the Nawab knows that he get income from the tax, and if the tax has not been paid, so it become difficult for the Nawab to run the state. Okay, then next, this dispute kept on recurring even during the time of Ali Vardi Khan. Okay, that after that Ali Vardi Khan was being seen as a Nawab, and the same dispute was being seen over there. That is they were not paying the tax, and even the tax collection was reduced. After Ali Vardi Khan, his son Siraj ud Dawla took charge. Okay, after Ali Vardi Khan, who took the charge of Bengal, that is Siraj ud Dawla, he got involved into a major battle with the British. Okay, he got involved with the major battle with whom? That is with the British people. Okay, that means after Murshid Ali Khan, Ali Vardi Khan also faced the same situation. He also opposed it. After Ali Vardi Khan, his son became the Nawab of Bengal. His name was Siraj ud Dawla, and he also got involved in major battles with whom? That is with the British, because he was opposing the rights which were being taken by the British, and the the way the British were been charging themselves in India, because for that reason he had many battles with whom? That is with the Britishers. Okay, students, now we'll move on to the theory part. Okay, so the first theory, what you need to write, it is for 3 marks. Brief answer: how did the Portuguese rule came to an end in Bengal? Okay, within just 100 years, the Portuguese has taken control over Mangalore, Cochin, Diu and Daman, Goa, Mumbai, and the island of Lanka was conquered by Portuguese. Then, in the beginning of the 17th century, the Portuguese expanded their trade in Bengal. Then, the Subedar of Bengal complained about Portugal's activity to the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, who ruled India from Delhi. As per the emperor order, Hooghly fort was demoralized and Portuguese ships were burnt. Then, in this way, the Portuguese rules came to an end in Bengal with the exception of Diu, Daman and Goa. Only these states were being were being captured by Portuguese, were in the control of Portuguese. Okay, so now over here you can see I have written in points. So in the same manner you need to write in points. When you write the question in bracket, just write the same thing what I have written over here, that is 3 marks, and that is brief answer. Okay, it can ask for 3 marks in the exam. So okay, so this you need to write it in your notebook, and but with day and date, and whenever you come for the school it would be checked. Now the other question, students, which you need to write, that is, how did the revenue generate generated from tax reduced in Bengal, or another question can be asked to you, that is, give reason income received from tax in Bengal reduced, and this would be asked for how many marks? 2 marks, because it's a short answer. Okay, so any of one of the question is been will be asked in the exam, and you need to write the same answer over here. Okay, it is even been given in the textbook about it, and even I have written in points over here. So in this same pattern you need to write in the exam. Okay, and you even need to learn this data for objectives over here. Okay, students.